Good late Tuesday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center going ahead and giving you that weather update. Let's go ahead and take a look at that Doppler radar where you can see we do have some showers and thunderstorms here in the picture. Maybe some of the accent not quite as robust as what we were dealing with earlier in parts of our area, so that's good news, obviously. But others are seeing some of these storms are pretty nasty as we get down toward parts of Flagler and St. Johns counties, for instance, seeing a significant weather advisory in play as we're looking there. Even a flood warning, aerial flood warning for parts of St. Johns County until 5:15 at 3:38. Report coming in there. It looks like of a road flooded near the Mojo restaurant on Cordova Street with water estimated as high as 2 feet deep. And we were just talking about this the other day here. Some of those vulnerable spots there in St. Augustine can be impacted sometimes by some of these heavier downpours where the water just doesn't drain. So something to be cognizant of. Got to remember to turn around, don't drown. And as we look back over the last hour or so, you can see towards St. Augustine really getting some of that rainfall right close to that flood report there. As you see in this purple, talking about 2 inches or so in the last hour. So definitely these totals adding on up here toward parts of St. Johns County. And then as I zoom on out, you see areas out here toward parts of Bradford, Union, not as much rain in that time frame, but looking back, you really do see these numbers adding on up. Kind of telling the story as we look toward parts of Bradford County, around 3 inches or so. And in fact, I have another map we can go over to here on our storm total system, which will actually be able to kind of show you a little bit different color scale and even zoom down into street level mapping and kind of give you an idea where some of the heavier rain did fall. So let's zoom into Bradford County here. You see some of these different roads popping on up, in fact. So let me go ahead and kind of pop on our system where I can pop up some of these different road names, some of these different amounts even, because this can be helpful in this type of situation here to try to evaluate things. So let's go ahead and see that now. You'll be able to see as we look on over here, Southwest County Road 225, 3.48 inches or so did fall this afternoon. As we look out there, I'll kind of point out what we're talking here as I move the mouse around a little bit more. You can't actually see the mouse on this mode, but it's looking out right in here. Where we have some of these darker oranges showing on up, so kind of telling the story here where we've seen some of those higher rainfall amounts. So just trying to give you an idea here of some of those different numbers in toward our region. Other spots seeing less rainfall here overall in Bradford County, but other spots here as we look out, for instance, toward parts of Columbia County near 75 there, close to about 4 inches or so, and some of these other brighter spots here, we kind of see that reddish orange showing up. We're talking about 4 inches or so of rain, but other spots looking out south of McClenny, really not much rain at all. So kind of just tells you how things can be hit and miss sometimes. Out toward Jacksonville International Airport, not really any rain over there either. So again, just hit and miss action, but some of this action that just kind of hit you can be pretty impactful with those heavy downpours, some minor street flooding, things like that occurring. So you just got to be cognizant there as we talk about even 6 inches of water can knock a person down. So 2 feet of water there concerning, as we do see earlier now towards St. Augustine. We never had any type of severe warning to break in for, but it looks like we just got a delayed report of a gust at 3 o'clock there, up to 53 miles an hour. So definitely worth noting there. Looking at some of the velocities, we were seeing some of these higher values trying to show on up here, and even still seeing some brighter colors. So maybe the 40 to 50 mile an hour winds can't be ruled out toward Palm Coast, toward Beverly Beach, where we're seeing some of these brighter colors here within the Doppler algorithms and within our velocity algorithms. So again, strong thunderstorm action there, whether it's talking about maybe winds in excess of 40, that minor flooding, and even watching some lightning. Maybe not quite as much lightning as what we were seeing earlier here in the picture, but you still got to be cognizant of that danger here for sure. We'll zoom back on out here again, watching things. Tipton, I guess, to 18 a little earlier. Another spot getting some of this. You see some of the storming just out toward the Big Bend. Not as nasty. We're looking up the Jacksonville site, but not seeing those significant weather advisories. Now, candidate for a significant weather advisory. Maybe this storm here north of Elliott's Bluff. Seeing even a little bit of wind with that. So something to watch as we get toward Camden County. I know up toward Camden County, they got quite a bit of rain in some spots there yesterday. So I just have to be kind of cognizant of that detail here as well. So trying to just give you that radar tour here. Some of this action not moving too much. Other action here as we look down toward the south. Tracking east maybe at 15 miles an hour or so. So again, that slow movement contributing to those heavy downpours in spots. Where I'm at, we were talking about the storm total amounts in Bradford County. As I pop that up one more time, kind of on the east side of town. We picked up 1.48 inches of rain here today. But because of that rain, it has dropped those temperatures, and that's a good thing here, folks. When you have those cooling downpours and those temperatures do fall because of those, it makes things feel nicer out there for those conditions to be for you to be able to enjoy them. So again, 76 degrees here as of the latest check on the temperature, 76.4. So again, nicer temperatures out there once you get that rain cooled air to come into play. Now we'll go ahead and zoom back on out and show you again, not as much action, kind of just that light rain that you get once the storm's going to fall apart toward north central Florida. Still could get some resurgence of the moisture here. Storms could reemerge from time to time, but once you get that lighter rain in play, that does kind of suppress things to some extent. That's good news, of course, on that front. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of those cameras. I'll go ahead and start off with the camera we have here at Clouds Weather. So let me go ahead. We'll see those rainfall totals there one more time. You see some of these temperatures, by the way. You see some of these 70s on the board. If you look real close, even some of those cooler temperatures. But let's look toward the west here from the Starke area. You can see kind of what's going on. The darker skies here in play. So it is kind of nasty looking, but again, those cooler temperatures make things a little bit nicer. Not as concerned about that heat index. I mean, really seeing that number fall on down. So that's the good news here as we're watching things for sure. Now, unfortunately, sad news here came out over the weekend, though, with former Bradford High School football coach David Hurst passing away. My thoughts and prayers are with his family. They are just a legendary coach in the high school ranks there. As we were looking back, won a couple state titles here, even with the Bradford Tornadoes there in the 1960s, and he coached for a very long time here. Such a legend. My thoughts and prayers again to his family. But let's go ahead and look away now from this camera. We'll look over toward a viewpoint. It looks like here at the Baker County High School camera. We'll pop that on up now, and you do see some of those darker skies in the picture there. We were giving you that radar update there a moment ago, and then now going away from that, we'll pop up the FSU Weather Stem camera a little bit, see what's going on out there. You'll kind of get an idea of what's going on in toward that vicinity. Seeing some of those darker skies, we were showing you the radar there earlier, and in fact, let's go ahead and punch that back on up. I'll go ahead and punch that back on up here to see what's kind of happening toward that Big Bend region. You'll kind of get an idea of what's going on there. So let's go ahead and go back over to our Geo-Earth computer here. Always kind of interesting to do this on the fly when we switch between the different systems. But you do see here, as we look toward areas there of McCulloch County, also toward Franklin County, even a little more robust accent there. Probably some of the most robust accent in our viewing area toward Franklin County right now. So something to be mindful of here for sure. When that thunder roars, you want to go indoors like what we were seeing earlier toward our region. But again, that storminess near St. Augustine, a little more impressive with that flooding and play. And we do have a St. Augustine camera we can pop up here as well. So let's go ahead and go on over there now. You'll be able to see what's happening as we look. I don't think we've used this one on air before, and you'll be able to kind of get an idea with a visual of those conditions here. Pretty nasty looking there. And then up toward Jacksonville, though, not that much storminess in play. A little bit warmer, 84 at JIA at the last check. And we'll go ahead and show you the baseball grounds camera right now. I know Jacksonville Jaguars there going ahead and getting going now with that training camp. Going ahead and getting things ready for that season. So trying to practice, try to improve upon that 1-15 year last year. A lot of new pieces, of course, though, with the team. And just kind of watching those weather conditions around right now, looking pretty okay for that action. Of course, they can go inside, things like that here if necessary, depending on how things go with the weather conditions in terms of at least kind of talking things over. So we'll go ahead, though, and move away now. We'll go ahead and move away from this weather stem camera and pop up our Cedar Key camera. They're pretty nice over there toward the coast, Levy County. I know we had significant weather advisory in Levy County earlier. Levy County kind of telling the story there with some of that mixing of the cloud cover. You see some blue there. You also see some of that cloudiness, though, still hanging around here in this pattern. So something to kind of keep an eye out for there as we now look away from weather stem you'll be able to kind of see what's happening as we look on over now toward that radar system once more. As we zoom on out, I want to see some action going on. I do see a storm, by the way, eastern Alabama, southeast Alabama. We'll watch to see how that kind of evolves. Real quick, we'll kind of touch on that here. You can kind of see that. That might be something for the Blakely area or area south in Early County to watch later on here. Just something kind of catching my eye. But as you see, warmer temperatures up toward Atlanta. Take the temperatures off because this will get really cluttered if I keep those on. But as we look up toward the northeast, we have some severe thunderstorm warnings here in play. You can see up toward Albany, New York, for instance, some storm reports there earlier, not Albany, Georgia, but Albany, New York here. Some severe thunderstorm warnings still in play. We have a severe thunderstorm warning right now for, it looks like parts of areas here toward the Troy community there. So something for those folks to monitor for sure. You see parts of Pennsylvania, parts of New York State under warnings down toward the south. Even, I know, Bradford County, Pennsylvania, they've been getting hammered. Not Florida, but Bradford County, Pennsylvania. I mean, they've had some tornado warnings here the last few weeks, some flash flooding going on. Just interesting, a unique thing there. Multiple Bradford counties in the country. That's another Bradford County there as we're looking toward parts of northeastern Pennsylvania. And then you see here, again, that's the thunderstorm watch and play with a couple of them. Actually, the one toward the west goes until it looks like only about 6 o'clock, but the eastern watch here, you can kind of see the division off toward the west, but the eastern watch, Boston, for instance, under this watch all the way until 10 o'clock eastern time tonight. So something for them to watch. We also have some significant tornado parameters in play, not expecting really a tornadic threat today. We do have a threat of some severe weather tomorrow, a little bit more toward the Midwest, but there is some type of threat here today, so let's go ahead and pop that up. See a storm kind of fire in southeast of Rochester and south of La Crosse, Wisconsin. We'll see if that goes severe in a little bit, and even a warning in the ward parts of Oklahoma here as well. Not an organized severe threat, but this one going off toward the south and west in an unusual direction here toward parts of southeastern Oklahoma with a severe thunderstorm warning in play there. So kind of giving an idea of that weather scenario. You even see flash flood warning toward parts of Utah, some different ones actually in play there. Some wild weather out that way. But now let's go ahead and take you back home again with that viewpoint as we now transition over to the tropics. Luckily, that area we were watching, we've seen some of that moisture here in play, but luckily nothing developing with it tropically. And now as we go ahead and see that name list, we keep popping this on up here, but that name list here kind of important because we will be watching to see what storm, what system becomes Fred here later on. But luckily, no new tropical cyclone formation expected here in the next 5 days. So something to kind of put you at ease now with that system not going to develop off and over now land toward a part of the southeast. It was over land and it went over water, back over land. It went up to 60% odds to develop at one point there over the weekend, but again, not going to develop. That's great news, obviously, here as we're looking at things in the weather center. But as we look toward August here, as we look toward that August time frame, we're going to be watching because those probabilities do increase here, folks. That probability of development, definitely something to watch as the tropics could get kind of nasty here. As we look ahead, unfortunately, conditions could be favorable for some action, and if conditions are favorable enough, that could mean strong systems. We don't know of that fact for sure yet, but if the systems do develop, the steering currents, unfortunately, seem to dictate that the storms may go further west, maybe more U.S. impacts. Too early to say for sure, though. You never know. Sometimes we could have perimeters come together in the tropics, like wind shear might end up being stronger, and that could suppress things. You never know. But if the storms do develop, and there is a pretty good idea that they could, then they would go more off toward the west here, and may end up not being the U.S., may end up being Cuba, could end up being Mexico here, something like that with more impacts later on versus the recoveries are out in the Atlantic. We'll just have to wait and see. Of hurricane season there, September 10th or so. And then looking out toward the western Pacific, though, we do have Tropical Storm Nepartak. This is a system we're keeping an eye on because of the Olympics there in Tokyo, Japan. This is the latest track there at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We converted these over to Eastern Time just because it would be really confusing trying to use Japanese time. I know it's already confusing enough trying to watch the Olympics 13 hours behind pretty much. But as we look over toward that area, we're kind of seeing how things things are going to go here as we look ahead in the timeline. You do see Tokyo here. Luckily, the worst going to the north. We've seen some pretty good surfing conditions, things like that, but not too many events having to be disrupted there. The max sustained winds at the last it's checked are 40 miles an hour, maybe only a depressant at landfall. So that's good news, not a typhoon, and that's something that makes people kind of rest easy a little bit more over there toward that area. They can handle this. It's just a little bit intriguing with the Olympics in play, but because of this being such a weak system and because of it going further north too, not too concerned about Tokyo. Now, some events are played further off, away from Tokyo, but again, not extremely impactful. I mean, sometimes tropical systems that are just tropical storms can be pretty impactful, but it's looking like here, even if some of the action is a little more impactful, it should be to the north of Tokyo. So we'll go ahead and look over to tomorrow's forecast now, planning your day ahead here as you look at 8 a.m., 76, pretty nice in terms of some of the conditions relatively. I mean, right now it's pretty nice, 76 here where I'm at. So this is just a relative outline because other areas here could see temperatures cooler or warmer as we look ahead, but 89 at noon if you're not getting a downpour, 87 on average at 5 o'clock here, but in between a little bit warmer if you don't get those downpours earlier, but showers and storms expected again, so that umbrella in hand, and again, when thunder roars, you want to go indoors. We'll keep repeating that, and then a 7-day forecast here in terms of that rainfall really telling the story. Unfortunately, as we look toward Tallahassee, folks, we're really getting up there now within some of those rainfall amounts, not just that maroonish color, but that brighter red color now popping on out on the mapping, telling that story. We're talking about 3+ inches of rain here on average over the next 7 days, even more off the North Carolina coast here, kind of seeing some different areas that way, but you can see toward the first coast a little bit less on average, maybe more like 2 inches, but still pretty impactful here as we're looking toward areas of that first coast. Even North Central Florida here, kind of in between. You look out toward areas like, it seems, Columbia County, a little bit more rain potentially, but these are just the average amounts you saw today. Hit and miss can be a storyline sometimes. Just looking here in the chat to see if there's anything new, and right now we're not seeing anything new, so that's good news, obviously, but continue to check in with that. Again, that flooding earlier there, a road was flooded near the Mojo restaurant on Cordova Street in St. Johns County, where water was up maybe as high as 2 feet. So that's an important storyline. And of course, when we're not on, you can go to cloudweather.com/radar for all that important weather information. So that's something that you can kind of get there. And you can also go to cloud_WX on Twitter. That'll tweet out those flood warnings automatically coming in from the Jacksonville, Tallahassee offices, even if they're not in our area. There's something to kind of keep our eyes on for sure, though, in terms of some of those different rainfall amounts that could occur that could cause some flooding. As I see that storm now in toward Camden County has triggered a significant weather advisory until 5 o'clock there from the Weather Service. But high heat index values possible at times, so use that extra caution when you're outside, of course, but when you're not getting those higher temperatures, heat index values, you have that rain and storminess around in general. I mean, maybe catching a break in the morning to an extent, going out maybe for a morning jog, something like that. But you see 70% chance of rain here as I kind of step on over. This is looking toward that Wednesday here. On that afternoon, we're going to be seeing temperatures 91 or so for that high. Some spots warmer, some spots cooler. Of course, as we talked about, 92 as we get toward that Thursday here. So going to be keeping our eyes on that as you see the temperature inching up as that rain chance falls a little bit, falling more on Friday. That's going to be the hottest day, it looks like, at 95 degrees. So that's something to kind of be mindful of here. That's the day you really want to take precautions with those weather conditions being nicer in general, because unfortunately you could have some of those heat-related illnesses cropping on up here. I know some folks having to wear a mask here, depending on where you're at, of course, and you just have to kind of make sure you're careful. Just having to be careful out there, because with that heat potential, that could make things kind of nasty feeling. And then as we get toward that Saturday, you see 94 degrees, 93 on Sunday there. You see that rain chance starting to inch up. That's kind of how it goes this time of year. Once that temperature trend goes down, as sometimes in general, because of that rainfall threat inching up, we see here as we get toward Monday, 60% chance of rain. On Tuesday, a 60% chance of rain here as well. Those temperatures at times, though, above average, as we were talking about Friday, really kind of getting up there. You see 91 there. I'll step over just again real quick. You see 91 degrees here on that average number for Tallahassee, for Jacksonville. We're going to get a 95 as we're looking toward that Friday. So that's something to kind of be mindful of here for sure. 94 Saturday, 93 Sunday, that above average type of period here is something to watch out for. So that's your forecast. To pretty much have everything covered there that we need to talk about for today. I'll see if there's anything else we need to talk about real quick here. Again, that rainfall kind of adding on up a little bit toward the Starke area. So that's something to kind of be mindful of here as we look ahead. Maybe because of some more rain coming in the picture, possibly with these higher rain chances, that antecedent rainfall could be an issue here in some spots with those areas there in the yards. Maybe kind of put on up a little bit, draw mosquitoes maybe. So I just have to be kind of cognizant of that potential here as well. But that pretty much does it here for this Tuesday. I'll go ahead and go back to the radar one last time to see what's going on here. Consider that flood warning in play. We have that significant weather advisory toward parts of Camden. Let me check that out real quick. We're talking about just minor flooding possible to the heavy rainfall around Harriet's Bluff there. This is at the 421 from the Weather Service. We're watching maybe a little bit of gusty winds toward the south as well. Let's go over to GR level 3 really quick here. We'll zoom in toward this area, toward the north here. Again, looking toward, it looks like Harry's Bluff, even Elliott's Bluff there as well, toward some of these different roads here, trying to get them to pop on our map. Luckily, again, that means we're in a rural spot. We talk about this quite a bit here. When you don't get too many roads to pop on, that means you're in a rural area. But I do see Cardinal Road in here, and then you see Brunswick, a little storm there in Glenn County trying to get going, and then the storminess, a flood warning in play for parts of St. Johns County till about, it looks like 5:15 or so, but the rain, watch that moving away from that spot. It's a pretty small little area here. As we look right into towards St. Augustine, you can kind of make out that green polygon. It's not easy to see, but it's a small area away from the heaviest of the rain, as that's now down toward Marineland and Palm Coast. Watching some of our velocity signatures, not seeing too much right now, but of course, as always, if something breaks, we'll be back here in the Weather Center to let you know. Hopefully we don't see anything like that. I thought maybe, looking yesterday, we could see something like that today because the storms maybe we're going to get going a little bit later. But sometimes when you have the accident get going earlier, it can suppress things in general. But we'll watch, we'll track here. Those temperatures, popping those up real quick. I'll take off the wind numbers, and you'll be able to kind of see some of those here. You have to look a little close because they're a little bit smaller, but looking at some of these, 85 toward Taylor County, you see 92 in Mitchell County, Georgia. If I kind of move this over 95, even Albany, and the heat index value is really getting up there. They're at 108 at the last check with that heat index there in Albany. So really getting up there, making things uncomfortable. It just depends on where you're at, because a lot of the other areas have seen that rain cool air to suppress the accent. Again, be on as necessary. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow with another update from the Weather Center. For now, have a great night.